What's up, everyone? Welcome to Room and Board. My name's Chris George, and it's another Tuesday morning. That's right, we skipped Monday. No, don't check your calendars, just trust me. If you keep up with your complaining, it'll be Thursday morning instead. I'm skipping to next week. It's Christmas morning. Have yourself a wonderful holiday filled with cheer. But since I like you all, I guess I'll make an exception on this Tuesday morning. And we will have another episode of Crowdfunding Countdown where we take a look at every single board game campaign finishing up this week. I read through the rulebook so you don't have to, and tell you which ones to avoid, which is probably all of them because I'm cheap. But first, before we get into that, shout out to my newest patron, Nick. Nick, thank you for jumping on board. You're the friggin' bomb. It really is true. A little goes a long way, and I'm so appreciative of everyone who supports the channel. You know this by now. So if you're a regular viewer and you want to jump on board our cool and exclusive Discord, well then, hey, yeah, sign up for Patreon. And we can have ourselves a little laugh. And if you don't, well, no laughter for you. I take back my holiday wishes. But seriously, as always, thank you to all my patrons. You're great. And hey, thanks for just tuning in, everyone, because you're great as well. Everyone's great. We're all great. Except for anyone who doesn't help you set up a game when you're tired. They suck. I gotta tell you all something. Did you hear that last part? She didn't hear that last part. So let's get into the games. And we have a lot this week, but I wanted to start by listing the campaigns that exist that I am certainly not going to cover, but who have titles that make me think that I should. Like Salty Sarah's STL file, where you can purchase a commercial license that doesn't allow you to use it commercially. Or Attack of the Naked Zombie Girls, if you prefer your pornography in miniature form. Titles such as Priestess of a Legally Distinct Spider Goddess, and Daddy Devlin's Den of Delights. Congratulations, Internet. Yes, you have done it again. Anyway, our first game this week is not a game, but it's a table. And that, of course, is the Origins board game table, whose campaign is finishing up over on Kickstarter on a deadline that I'll tell you when I scroll down on my notes. And you can get their Origins board gaming table, which was their major campaign last time they were on Kickstarter, or their new Origins coffee table, which they are pushing this time around, because it's new. And as for board gaming on a coffee table, well, I'm not that old, and yet every time I play at a coffee table, I can't get out of bed for 2.5 weeks. It's a bad idea. If you can help it. I really do like that the structure of this table is that they're allowing you to have a topper that you can attach to the table to make it like a full-size board game table. I think that's a really cool addition. And then that way your regular table can be regular coffee size proportions. So yes, coffee size proportion. It is a regular proportion of a normal amount of coffee. That's what coffee tables are normally known for. But it can fit in front of a normal couch and doesn't take up the room, which I think is great. And I think it's a really good consideration. But they're also pitching the topper as, hey, the topper lifts the game playing surface up so much so you no longer have that Hunchback of Notre Dame. And that, I say, is clearly a lie. It raises it by like 2 inches. And according to, well, a friend of mine, 2 inches, it's not enough, but at least I have a winning personality. My friend does. My friend does. So they make up for it with that. Like the table. Moving on. When I play games on a coffee table, I rip a door off its hinges like a normal person and lay it down flat and use that as the board gaming table playing surface. That's actually not a joke. That's what we do in my friend's house because they had a spare door and it's just a nice big flat long surface that you can stick down and extend the board. It's quite ingenious. They really do seem very committed to communication, though, and to not overselling, which will likely cause delays. But these tables are also very expensive, even for board game tables. So if you thought, yeah, I'm going to make a last-minute decision on a board game table and click yes right now after I hear from Chris, well, my advice would be to shop around a little bit more. But if you are interested, that finishes up Thursday, April 28 at 11 a.m. Now, next up we have Nightbreak, which is a 2-player head-to-head card game.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Which wants to be a collectible card game.
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Which has a day and a night phase where one player benefits over the other. So it is a bit different. You'll have a deck of heroes and you'll pick 3 and you have to kill the opponent's heroes. You'll do this by activating your hero's abilities and trying to position them in the right columns and time out when to escape with your first hero and draw a new hero so you can murder your opponent even more. You'll play a certain number of rounds, and the person who earned the most favor, primarily through murder most foul, wins. Where the day and the night mechanic come in is that one player will be the day player and the other player will be the night player, and there will be a time tracker which will give resources to either the day or the night player, and you use those resources to activate your hero's abilities. So if you like that sort of push and pull, yeah, I figured I'd mention it. It also kind of feels like you're just extending a normal game where everybody gets the same resources, but you're extending it by double. The positioning system seems way too basic for me, at least at this initial look. And it's $39 US, which is a bit on the high end. It's okay. A little too much for me, even though the shipping is fairly decent at $9 US or $15 US for Canada. Anyway, if that does sound interesting to you, that finishes Thursday at noon. Or you can take a look at Blade Rondo, which is basically the same game. This one's over on Gamefound, but I gotta say, Gamefound, if you're watching, and I know you are, you're huge fans of the channel. I see you commenting all the time, saying, please stop talking about our platform. But Gamefound really has to do something about how to sort their campaigns if you want people to use it as more than just a pledge manager. The sorting options currently are horrible. When you go to see open campaigns, you see more pledge managers that are open than the campaigns that are actually trying to get funding at the moment. And I guess every pledge manager is always trying to get funding, and so naturally you're going to promote those things, but I find people work better on a timeline, and they're not going to peruse through all these open pledge managers anyway, because they're done, and there's no worth talking about them whatsoever. Or there is, I mean there is. But if you're bumping up already finished campaigns and pushing the ones that are open, that are using your platform, and you're like actively pushing them down in the search results, I can't imagine that's going to be a good business strategy. Even if it is because I assume some pledge managers are paying you for advertising and paying to get that top spot. I don't know if that's an actual thing or not, but that's the only reason why I could assume that it's shuffled up the way that it is. And this is a bad system because people like me, who are giving you literally free publicity every single week, are likely to miss things due to your abysmal sorting system. So get it together, Gamefound. This isn't an Etherfields rulebook here. You actually have to put some work into this thing. Anyway, back to Blade Rondo, where you can get 5 different games that are actually 100% just the same game with different things. Yes, but you can get 5 of them! And they apparently combine together to form some sort of Voltron-like story where you do one chapter at a time, but it doesn't matter. They're all the same game. It's just another 2-player...
So it's just like Duel Monsters.
Yeah, we get it by now. But I think this one does look, fairly decent. And it's not just because I love all things Japan. In fact, the art isn't really drawing me in at all, but what is drawing me in is that this is a hand construction game. So you're going to draw 15 cards and you choose 7 of them, and you have those 7 to play with for the game. Reduce your opponent's life to 0, and you win! You also have a voltage meter that goes up every turn, so that's just basically like your mana or your curve or your lands or whatever terminology you're familiar with. It's your spending power. You can't play a card that costs higher than your voltage. And this is, again, 2-player head-to-head battling. You're putting your people down. This one only costs $20, $5 shipping to the US or Canada, so if you are interested in that 2-player head-to-head Yu-Gi-Oh experience, well, I would opt for this one over, Nightbreak. Anyway, that also finishes 12 noon Thursday. Now next up we have the Fortress of Terror, which is a solo roll and write adventure. And the point of the roll and write is to escape the dungeon. And they've currently unlocked a ton of maps, and this one, looks decent. It's a print and play, but the fact that they've unlocked so many different maps is why we're talking about it. And why we're not talking about the other roll and write that finishes, called Pestilence, which just looks like a roll and move and write. And that's it. But what's different about this one, which is you roll the dice, you choose where to move. You're going to roll 4 dice, and then you have to use each one to move in either north, west, east, south. But because you have that choice of the 4, you're always going to be able to choose the one that you really need and then make the sacrifices on the other movements. And I think that decision might be interesting to do. Pestilence, as far as I can tell, does not have that sort of interesting decision. You're just rolling aimlessly around Paris, trying to avoid rats and the plague. Rolling around aimlessly in a garbage can, like Oscar the Grouch on Mardi Gras. Anyway, for this one, Fortress of Terror, you need to have 8 dice in order to play, and then you can print and play. Like all these sort of print and plays that come to Kickstarter, it's about $5 each, which I don't think is bad considering the amount of different maps that you would get with this one if this is something that turns your crank. So if you're interested in that one, check it out. That's 10 p.m. Thursday. Now next up, we have an expansion to Quest Kidz, whose video feels like a cross between a music video for mini pop kids and a 90s toy commercial. Yes, do you feel that nostalgia reminding you of your favorite childhood playthings? Back it now, or else you're a bad parent. That's what it's saying. I'm just reading between the lines. But I can guarantee you this, having never played the game, that it is definitely a better time than watching countless Kids Bop music videos on YouTube trying to find one that'll work as a bit for this segment. Here's a spoiler alert for you. They all would. Anyway, you're gonna run around the dungeon picking up loot and getting stars. Just make sure you grab that loot before somebody else does. You're also gonna have to team up with other Quest kids to take down fearsome monsters, just like Horsehead Girl. And finally, you're gonna add up your stars, and the kid with the most stars and loot wins. And the rest of them, well, they'll have to brush their teeth with those toothpaste Oreos. Wait a minute. This isn't the Quest Kidz video. Classic Kids. But actually this game, which I hadn't heard of before now, looks like a great introduction to dungeon crawling for kids. It really does. You're just getting tons of stuff on every turn. That's it. You're always getting some sort of item, and the Dice Tower playthrough that Tom did with his 2 kids, and one who I believe is his youngest, it's very charming to see how much fun Jimmy, the youngest, is having. And that alone, I think, is worth checking out if you're a parent to young children. But it is annoying that you don't get an opportunity to buy just the base game in this campaign. You'll have to get it and the expansion for $74 US or $99 Canadian. And I am certainly not spending that amount of money on my hypothetical children. They can learn to play Rising Sun like their brothers and sisters, and they don't get dinner until they win. No going to bed until you complete your 4th campaign of Twilight Struggle, children. And edit these videos while you're at it. Wait a minute, should I have kids? Anyway, if you're interested in that one, that finishes Thursday at 10:30 p.m. Now next up we have Aldarra. Aldarra, it's back! It had a very rocky campaign a few weeks back. Pretty much canceled immediately because their base pledge, the base bare minimum pledge, was going to cost you $245 US, $310 Canadian. They rightly canceled, but now they're back. And the main change that has happened is they have reduced their ship mini size by a significant margin, they've said. It's from 40% to 25% down, and they've managed to cut the cost by $100. They've gotten the base pledge down now to $135 US, which is still an incredible amount, but now at least we're circling in the realm of possibility. Not for me, but for some other people who could afford to spend $135. And I also love that they haven't changed anything about their pitch for the game. And their pitch for the game previously was basically, hey, check out our huge minis! Look at these minis! Hey, have you seen that all these ships, they're different sculpts? Look at these minis! Well, yeah, but what about the game? Yeah, check out the minis, though! They're huge! Okay, fine, the game, we're gonna get to that in a second, but really, have you heard about our minis? So you're playing until somebody has 20 points, and then the most points wins. So if you like Catan's 10-point system, well, hey, this should be double the fun. This one also has a modular board, which draws me in. I love modular boards. It has asymmetric factions, which I love. This one pushes all my buttons in terms of mechanics that I like, and yet it is still something that I don't think I'm interested in. The basic turn structure is you're going to place an order token in a province and then get to activate that province, either moving a whole bunch of ships into it or moving a bunch of ships out of it. And if you end in the same tile as somebody else, you can fight each other and get coins, or you can go onto a land and explore that land. It's a 4X genre. So you're getting all the X's: expand, exploit, exterminate, exhilaration, explain what the 4 X's mean every time you bring up the term. I stole that explain joke from some YouTube comment that I forget where I saw it. But if it was you, let me know, because I'll pin you. to give you credit, because I think that's a very funny joke. And this game actually reminds me a lot of Twilight Imperium, but where there is a focus on the battles, and the outcome of these battles has a significance to the game. Whereas in Twilight Imperium, it's just like, oh yeah, I didn't get a point for that. Why the heck did I waste my time? So I really don't think it's for me. Plus their prices are still all over the place in other regards. It's $130 to get 24 swirling dice. This is the sort of campaign which makes me think that they were so focused on whether or not they could, they didn't stop to think about if they should. And I mean, if you're honestly so out of touch that you think that initial price point is a good idea, or maybe they just thought the big ships would appeal to people, but honestly, I don't have that much faith that the gameplay itself isn't necessarily bloated as well. And yet, speaking of fluctuating prices, they also have the base game without any minis for $45 US. And at $45 US, like, I think that's actually a really good deal. I think if you're interested in 4X games, you might like to pick it up at that price point, and you may already have minis or ships that you can use to proxy. I wish that tier included like a standee pledge as well. And if it did, I might think about jumping in at that point. But as it stands, it feels like too much money to take a risk on, so I'm not particularly interested. But if you are, that finishes 11 p.m. on Thursday. Now next up we have a game called Legacy of Thracks, The Awakening. And this one looks cool. There's a lot going on all across the board. But the basic premise of the game is that you want to be the first person to get your character across a number of magical barriers into Damara, which is very different than Madara and not related to it whatsoever. And certainly we wouldn't want to get confused with name recognition and take some of those customers. I thought it sounded familiar. But like I said, to get there, you do have to cross these magical barriers, and if you don't take the time to open these magical barriers before you attempt to cross them, well, they will shred you like cottage cheese. And yes, I do mean cottage cheese and not Swiss cheese. If you think about the texture of the thing going through a magical barrier that doesn't want you to be there, I stand by my cottage cheese assessment, and I'm sorry for giving everyone that wet visual. You'll also have your own unique class. You can play as Big Shield Boy, definitely not Tom Hiddleston, definitely not Doctor Strange, and definitely not Evil Doctor Strange coming out on Friday? No, next Friday. And so each of these classes will also have a specialty. They'll specialize in doing different things. The Big Shield Boy and Evil Doctor Strange, the Shadow Boy, they are more adept to combat situations, and the other two, the Mage and the Loki, they're obviously better at working from afar. But it's described as a sandbox meets a Euro, and you're going to be establishing these different bases across the map, trying to raise your own glory points. There's a number of different tracks that you're doing a bunch of stuff to get your stats up, basically, to get more gold income and more mana so you can do more things on the map, and more glory, because the more you increase your glory, you can unlock certain magical barriers. The more you control the map, you can unlock certain magical barriers. So it's all related to which magical barriers you do unlock and to get yourself across the finish line first. But someone can also play as the shadow character, whose main goal is to make sure nobody gets into Damara. Well, I guess that's everybody's goal, because you want to get there first and you don't want anybody else to go through with you. But I do love that the shadow character has their own sort of little board that they can boost up things to make it harder on the board. And then also you can contribute different resources to lower this shadow track. And everyone's going to be contributing these resources at the same time. So there will be that moment of, yes, I am putting in 3 resources. It benefits all of us to do this. It absolutely does. Everybody just put in the resources and we can move on with our lives. And then somebody else doesn't put in the resources and everyone else has just wasted their resources, and that other person goes on to just build a little fortress or something. And I love when games offer those sorts of opportunities, probably because, well, just because the people who I play with particularly enjoy not doing the things that I want them to do. There is a lot of moving parts here. I've just scratched the surface to give you a reference point of what to expect, and those being the key things that intrigue me personally about the game. And the price point is decent. $79 US for the base game or $89 US for the deluxe version, which turns your wooden cubes into sculpts. That's it. And in the first version, you don't get Kickstarter exclusive stretch goals, but that's just more sculpts as it stands. There's one that you wouldn't get. Shipping for this one ranges between $16 and $23, so it still would cost me like 140 bucks to get this to my door, Canadian. And at that price point, again, I don't necessarily think it's worth it. I mean, it does look really cool. It definitely looks the coolest we've seen so far this week, but I think you can still get a lot of fun track moving Euros at that price point. You can get 2 or 3 of them. But if you are interested, that finishes Friday the 29th at 1 a.m., aka Thursday night. Now, next up, we have a game called Barnyard. In the spirit of Button Shy, we have an 18-card game that can fit into a bifold wallet, just a tiny little wallet for your 18 cards. And honestly, this one looks great. And it really surprised me because the art, I was like, this is going to be another one that like most people will skip, but I'll take a look at it because, you know, I want to take a look at everything before I skip any of the really bad ones. But this looks quite fun. It's a 2-player drafting game where you want to get the best barnyard, the best 3x3 grid of farm animals. And on your turn, you're basically going to have 2 animals that you can choose from to do an effect, and you're going to be affecting this row of 5 cards. And usually the effect will be to switch the positioning of things. And then you're going to add your card that you used to the bottom of the row and then take the top card. So you're trying to always position yourself in terms of swapping to get the animal that you need to complete your tableau and get the most points versus what you're going to set up your opponent to get as well. And I think that puzzle feels very dynamic with only 18 cards. That impresses me a lot. And I looked at this game and I said, I bet this is going to be too expensive. I hope this is $10. I bet it's going to be more, but it's $10. It's exactly what I hoped it would be. $10 US, and it's $5 shipping to the US. It's $10 shipping to Canada. So at that point, I'm like, $25 for this little thing. I like the concept. I might opt for a print and play. But if you like these sort of smaller games, I feel like this is going to slide right in with those as well, and it's definitely worth checking out. So if you're interested, that is Friday at 8:30 p.m. Now, next up, we have a game called Paradox Initiative, and it is a bit inexcusable how horrendous this rulebook is, and how unclear this campaign is, because this is a reprint. This is a reprint of an existing product. You could showcase the previous rulebook. And the rulebook is very unclear for what should be a very simple concept. You're collecting sets of worlds. The more worlds you have of a particular set, the more points you'll have at the end of the game. And this is the problem with theming every single component in a game, especially when your rulebook doesn't have visual aids. Well, it's basically garbage because you don't even know what tokens your jargon is referencing. I mean, this may sound harsh, but if you want to learn how to play this game, don't even touch the rulebook. Watch the Before You Play video. They do a good job. Watch any video. Just don't watch anything that they're putting out themselves because it's so simple. The basic mechanics is Candy Crush. You're going to swap tokens of the same symbol to try to get tokens of the same color in a line. And if it's 4 in a line, you get to keep 1. If it's 5 in a line, you get to keep 2. You assign those to your worlds. You need to have a certain number of colored tokens on those worlds to keep them before a timer runs out. That's it. That's the game. That is all you have to say. Instead of saying, oh yes, you take your fragments from the wormhole and then swap paradox particles of a matching type. So you'd form, say, 4 purple paradox particles. And that way you'd be able to combine your timeline segments on your paradox console before they disappear from history. Don't forget, you can activate your trigger switches as well. I am unreasonably angry at the theming of this game. I know this. But that aside, the mechanics of this look calm and simple to pick up. It's a nice introduction to card drafting because you're going to be drafting these segments of your timeline. And I don't even mind the candy crushing mechanic, even though it feels like the decision making will always be obvious and never give players the feeling like they're very smart, because you think, oh, well, that's the closest thing to swap, so I guess I'll just swap it. It is a decent price point too. It's $39 US, it's $50 Canadian, plus an additional $10 shipping, which is good in today's shipping world. But honestly, if you're thinking about getting this one, check out Silicon Valley from last week, because it just looks like a better price point and a better game at a similar complexity level. I think Silicon Valley is going to be like a touch more complex, but you know what? No, I take it back, because just take one peek at the rulebook and you see how inaccessible it currently is, and I can only imagine it being more inaccessible to people than Wingspan is to Mandy Patinkin. If you saw that video of Mandy Patinkin trying to play Wingspan, he did not know what was going on, which, really clear. Again, I don't think that's Mandy Patinkin's fault. I think Wingspan is confused as a gateway game, and it is not. It is surprisingly difficult for people who aren't used to certain mechanics to grasp. But that's a tangent. Go check out Silicon Valley. 50% of that is me just being a salty bench, or a salty Sarah, I suppose I should say. But honestly, the other 50%, well, them's just the facts. But if you are interested in this one, hey, hope you love it. Check it out. Finishes Friday at 9 p.m. Now, next up, we have a game called For Northwood. And For Northwood was the winner of this 54-card game designing contest that the company, I think, has every year. And it's a smart idea. You say, hey, everybody, give me your ideas, and we'll pick the best one, and then we'll publish it. And this is described as a hand management and solo precision trick-taking game. And so what that means is that you are going to try to win the exact number of tricks for 8 different animals in the Northwood Kingdom, and that will represent how you have come to an agreement with them. You've talked them down just enough to not have a war, and you can solve your problems with words, which is the best way to solve your problems. And so each ruler that you go to, they have a suit associated with them, and that is the trump suit, and you're going to be flipping over cards and playing your own cards to try to win the trick, and also hold on to your best ones and win by just enough. This one looks good. It looks pretty fun. You can try it out online. And it's $15 US or $20 Canadian. It's like $5 to $7 shipping all around. So if you like trick taking and you wished you had a solo trick taking game, well, definitely check this one out. That finishes Saturday at 7 p.m. over on Gamefound. Next up, we have 4 and 65 years in the past. I won the Civil War with my beard. Now I'm here to kick. No, wait, no, that's a different video. That is a different video. This one is a dexterity Connect 4. That's it. Get 4 in a row, but get 4 in a row on both sides of this whole sticky contraption. It's a technical term. That's what they refer to it in. Don't bother looking at the campaign. Just trust me. That's what they call it. Anyway, this is £20, $33. And I'm mentioning it, well, because there is a part of me that still legitimately enjoys Connect 4. I know it's probably destroyed all credibility of mine on this channel, and I have plummeted back down to 1 subscriber. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate it. And honestly, Dad, I didn't expect you to stick around anyway. But Connect 4 would probably be like my guilty pleasure game. I mean, to an extent. It's still Connect 4. Now, the downside with this is that there's no shipping estimate, and likely the lack of kerplunk that you get from Connect 4 versus the just desperately trying to punch it into the other hole, just any side on the opposite side, might take away from some of the fun. But I also like showcasing neat melds of classic games, so that's why I wanted to talk about it. So here you go, 4 your proverbial moment in the sun. But just put shipping info on it next time. Other than the one line that says, our lightweight shipping solution allows us to get 4 to you at affordable rates. Great. What are those affordable rates? Because otherwise, I'm going to think it's baked into the price, and then I'm going to be pretty mad when it isn't. Maybe shipping is included, and I'm a ding-dong, but I don't know. I know it's had enough time already anyway, so if you want to check that out, hey, go for it. It finishes May 1st, Sunday at 11:58 a.m. Now, next up, we have Escape from Stalingrad Z. Yes, it is pronounced Escape from Stalingrad Z, and not from Stalingrad Z. I don't know who was telling you that, but no, it's Escape from Stalingrad Z. I think objectively, and this may make my fellow Canadians riot against me, but I think in certain scenarios, Z is much better than Z. But in other scenarios, like the band ZZ Top, it certainly is not. Anyway, this one was specifically requested by one of my patrons to make sure I covered. And this also has legitimately one of the best Kickstarter videos I've seen. This is a scenario-based World War II zombie game of tactical combat. And they just go through in the videos what I assume will be your initial scenarios. And it feels really cool. Like, rather than saying, oh, hey, we've got a story arc planned for you, but we don't want to show you, we're Awakened Realms, spoilers. They're saying, no, this is exactly the type of arc that you are going to be getting if you purchase this game. This is the journey you will go on, and then we leave it up to the mystery. You've seen the initial attack, and then you can expect more of the same. And I think this is just a great marketing decision, and I appreciate it in terms of letting me know what your game is going to feel like and what the overarching is going to feel like. So you're basically going to work your way through this 100-page scenario book, and it's right under it says, there are 40 scenarios in here, so not 100 scenarios. But you're going to go through this choose your own adventure scenario-based campaign and getting experience points as you go through. Because on each of your character sheet, it shows, hey, when you get to 10 experience points, you get this thing. 50 experience points, you get this thing. 150 experience points, you get this really cool thing. And I kind of like that the experience points are so high that you are going to get these bonuses infrequently. So if that appeals to you, sometimes you may just want bonuses all the time, and I understand that completely as well. But the rules for this one are also actually fairly simple. There's going to be a lot of stat check resolution and rolling to see if you hit the zombie or if the bullet bounces off the zombie's gold teeth and hits you in the knee. I can guarantee it has at least half of that in there. And you'll have a number of movement points, and you can run or you can be sneaky, and both of those have different effects on what happens around you. The zombies notice you, if you're searching, how many points these things move. And so there's going to be a lot of looking up. The first page of the rulebook is just some charts that you'll need, and which I think is great. But it's going to be a lot of, even if you read through the rulebook and understand it, because there's not too much to understand. It's combat, movement, searching. Basically, those are your actions. But there will be constant checking back in the rulebook to see what you have to do at a specific point. So that I can see really turning some people off if you don't like having to reference something constantly. But if you don't mind that, I think the arc that they've currently presented feels fun to me. I mean, they are just putting their best foot forward. And I think it's fairly reasonably priced. It's 60 bucks Canadian for the box version, which is good. It's fine, 50 bucks US. What is really exceptional and makes me very excited is they have a book version for $36 Canadian or $30 US, which if you don't need their 12-sided dice, you can get everything you need as like punch board tokens instead of standees that is in the main box, or then the minis are in the all-in pledge, which we'll talk about in a second. But I think because this is this big old book filled with scenarios, and I could almost see this being interesting to play at a solo experience as well. I don't see it necessarily being more interesting to play with more people. Just the fact that you have all these little punchboard tokens that you can move around on this grid and then pop the zombies on, I feel like it might, going with the book version, might make it a little bit more accessible to get to the table. And I think that's great. I just love that they're making it as affordable as possible, even removing the box, which is something that I was wishing more games would do to be able to get this into people's hands who want to play it and don't have the room or whatever. I was referring more about expansions rather than the full game, but I don't know. I love the concept. This concept combined with what seems to be a fairly straightforward rule set. Now, I say straightforward, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not complicated, but it should be straightforward to absorb at least. I don't know. I like it. That being said, I think the deluxe or the all-in version seems like a horrible deal. It's $149 US or $186 Canadian, and you get all the minis, all the zombie minis that you'd want. And let's be real, you probably already have all the zombie minis that you'd want. But I do love that affordable price point. Although one thing to note about that price point is that you aren't going to get the gun markers or your like equipment markers, so you may have to print those out, which seems strange that they wouldn't be included in the punch board, but they're not listed on the components list. So just be careful of that if you are going to go in for that book version. Some people may find it annoying to not have those markers, but I also assume you could potentially mark them off with pencil, because you're going to be printing out your character sheets anyway, and crossing an X through your health points and erasing it as you go on. That's already baked into the game. Anyway, if you are interested in that one, check it out. That finishes next Monday at 10:02 a.m. Now, our penultimate game of the week is actually 2 games of the week, and that's Fujiyama and Ajisai. It's coming from the same company. You can get both in a bundle. Fujiyama is a tile placement game. You're going to be placing 9 tiles on your mountain and scoring points. Super quick game, says it plays in like 20 minutes. But the twist to this game is that the most considerate player is likely to win. Not going to win, but likely to win. Because you don't get to choose the tiles that are on your board. You get to choose the tiles for other people's boards. But if they use those tiles, then you get an animal token and you can score animal points. And so it's a combo of animal points and season points will make up your final score. And I think that's a neat give and take. Someone may give you a tile that you know is perfect for you. So you obviously want to use it because there are more people around the table and you're going to get points, right? But they're doing really well with all their animal points. And do you want to give them that point as well? Likely you will always opt to get points yourself, but it gives that interesting twist, which I like. And I like the concept of whoever's the most considerate. I think you could do that with a lot of games where it's just the lowest scoring points wins and you're choosing other people's stuff and you're trying to build everyone else's better than yours. I think that could be also a really funny concept. But I think this one has a nice twist with the middle ground. And then Ajisai is just basically the game Othello, where you have a black and white piece, and whenever you put a piece down, if it's connected to another piece of your color, you get to flip over all of those pieces in the middle to the same color. It's basically that, but with 7 colors instead of 2. Why? I don't know. You just want to have the most of one color to win. Or, and I think this is how I would always play it, there's a variant that they offer where you choose one of your 3 colors and the other 2 are thrown away, and it's that color that you're going to score at the end. So how do you bluff with your other color pieces? And when do you start your committing to your actual color? I'm not quite sure what I was saying there because I noticed some feedback was happening, and then when I tried to correct that, I said, okay, I fixed it, and I thought I recorded the rest of the video, and I recorded none of it. So here we go, round 2. Sorry, by the way, if there was a bunch of feedback. I believe I can correct it in post, but if there's a little annoyance throughout that last little portion, I'm working on getting audio fixes. I got a shotgun mic that didn't work as well as I hoped, so we're still in the mix. Anyway, in Ajisai, there's also a way to put a piece down and it will bloom and turn the other pieces into a different color if it is a specific color, if they're next to each other in this color wheel. So that's also another way of changing colors as well, which makes sense because you need that way when there are 7 different colors on the board. There's one white sort of neutral color. Anyway, it's $40 for Fuji and $30 Canadian for Ajisai, or $60 Canadian for the 2 of them combined, which is like $48 US. And you can see the shipping. As you pledge, it says, where do we ship to? And it'll show you the prices for all of the shipping. And to ship to Canada, it's another $21 Canadian. Although I don't know why they're charging it now at the Kickstarter, probably because they're not using a pledge manager, but it also means that it's likely 5% more than you would actually have to pay for shipping. So I don't know. It's not something that I want to spend $40 a game on because that's what it works out after the shipping, right? It seems okay before shipping, like anything, and then it doesn't. But it seems fun. So if you are interested, check it out. That is next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Moving along, our last one of the week, maybe till I have to do it again, is the Maglev Metro Maps expansion, where you can get mechs, monorails, and Marmalade Malactama. This is a large expansion when you consider that the base game just gives you 2 maps, and this expansion gives you 6. That's more than double the content. It's less than 4 times the content. I still don't know why I find that joke funny, and I've made it twice now. It's over 2.9 times the original content. Between 2.9 and 3.1 times the content, somewhere in there. It's so stupid. Anyway, if you are new to Maglev Metro, you can get the whole thing, everything, for $120 US, and that's a pretty good deal. And if you thought I was serious, then you have backed too many Kickstarters and you need to stop. It's not. But looking into this campaign has made me want to check out Maglev Metro. I really love Ted Alspach as a designer. I love Suburbia, Castles of Mad King Ludwig, One Night Werewolf is great, and I think the loop of this game feels fun. Anyway, you're going to have to upgrade your building capacity and your transport capacity and transport passengers to their respective stations, to those stations that they want to go to. Usually it's associated with their color, unless you're playing one of these new expansions. But what I do love about this game is that everybody can build track on the same space, and in fact you're going to have to, because you can only transport people on your track. But these tracks are these acrylic layered tokens that you can put down that only have your color on it, but the way they're designed is that when you put them down over somebody's, you can see both of your colors, and when they stack they make this beautiful little metro map. And I don't know, I think the completed picture of this game will be very satisfying. I think it's like a really slick mechanic for incorporating those layerings of routes rather than putting something over top, like tickets, rides, trains, for example. Anyway, when you bring the passengers to their respective location, if you get enough of the same color, you get extra points, or you can commit them on your own personal player board to a row, and when that row is filled, then you can achieve an extra bonus objective. But if you don't get that row filled, then you can't potentially get these points that you already have in hand, and I feel like that push and pull is going to feel cool, as well as developing your actions and growing them and making them more powerful than how you started out. And so the expansion, each expansion pack, which is $30 US, gives you a double-sided map. But the thing is, I can get Maglev Metro at my local store for $65 Canadian, which is expensive, because adding it on here only cost me $50 Canadian. It feels like this is the better deal, but it's still like $30 in shipping. So this is one where, again, I feel like it's a wait for the retail version, even if you do love it, because the only Kickstarter exclusive you're getting, the only deluxe upgrade you're really getting from this, are screen printed meeples of the existing meeples in the base game, which that's not worth that extra $15 to me. And it's only $15 in that context of me getting it with everything, because there's no option just to purchase the base game here. But if you are interested, picking up a map pack or two, check it out. That is next Tuesday at 12 p.m. noon. And that's it. That is it, once again, for the week. Now every week I do a pick for me and a pick for you, and I hemmed and hawed last time I filmed it, but now I am definitely certain that my pick for me this week is Legacy of Thracks. I think this game does look great. I really think it does. I love games with a lot of interlinking parts, because I feel like I am very bad at determining which is the best interlink to chase down, or it gives me the at least illusion that I can attempt different strategies for success depending on what's happening. And those are games that have a little bit more longevity for me. And so Legacy of Thracks, I think, is one of those. It's, again, not one that I'm actually going to get. Let's be clear, I just think mechanically it looks the most interesting of the week. But this is one where when somebody else has gotten it and said, I hate this, and then is selling it, I might pick it up from them because now I know about it. At 150 bucks, like I said, it looks like a very fun game, but not for that price point, not for me. And it's strange, though, that I really think this one would have done better. And this is one that I like, it is the pick for me, because I hadn't heard of it really before doing my research for the week. And I love finding games like that. It's easy to hear about the games that are really popular and raising hundreds of thousands of dollars, but this one has surprisingly only raised like $65,000, at least when I checked, and that might have even been Canadian. So that's like, what, $2 US, I think? But yeah, I really do think that this one looks really neat, and it's very ambitious. It's doing a lot of stuff, but I like what it's doing, and I am hopeful that it will all work out. And then my pick for you is going to be Barnyard. Unabashedly Barnyard. I think this looks great at a great price. Now the caveat here is if you like these smaller sort of filler games. I don't necessarily enjoy the filler games as much because I'm not liable to bring them to game nights, because I'm always worried that if I put out a filler game, we may play 2 rounds of it, and then that might stop us from playing that extra longer game. So I like to get right into the meat of it, and let's just go and see how many we can cram in. But if you do like these smaller card games, and these wallet card games in particular, I know for all the talk I did about Stalingrad, about not being a box, I sometimes like that there's a box. But if that doesn't throw you off and you are inclined to these smaller sort of games, or if you're a button shy fan, I know a lot of members of my Patreon are button shy fans because we've been talking about that a lot recently, then definitely check this one out. I think it is worthwhile checking, especially if you live in the US, because shipping is only $5. Like I said, to Canada, it's 10 more. I'm probably not going to get it. But I think there will be, or I hope there will be, a decent amount of depth to this one. I can see the variability existing quite a lot, even with just 18 cards. I really like what they're doing. So yeah, Barnyard is definitely the official pick of the week. For Northwood was close if you like solo games and trick taking. Check that one out. And then I did gush about the book version of Stalingrad, which I think for the price is potentially worth a try as well. So, but those aren't the picks of the week. They are certainly not. It's just Barnyard. It's only the one. I'm just giving a couple honorable mentions, because why not? But if you want one, it's just Barnyard. And if I could only have one, then the other two are burned, and I'm not sorry about it whatsoever. That is it for me. That is the end of the week. As always, let me know in the comments what you're excited for. If there's anything this week that caught your eye that you didn't know of, I think that would be cool to know. Like, for me, it was Legacy of Thracks, and that's also part of the joy of doing my research this week. Yeah, it's helpful whenever you say what you are excited for upcoming as well, because sometimes things will fall through the cracks. Darkest Doom almost fell through the cracks, and that one looked really cool. So I just like hearing from you. You know what? Come Wednesday, it will have been a year on YouTube for Room and Board, and that is pretty cool. I'm saying Wednesday is officially a year because that's when I started making content consistently. I had filmed a vigilante preview for a friend of mine who is the designer of that as my first kind of video on this channel. And then I took like a month off because I was like, oh, that took me a week and I still didn't have a good format and was trying to figure things out. But then when I came back seriously, that's when I'm marking my 1 year on YouTube. So I'm not going to go on too much about that. I'll put out a separate video likely on Wednesday just to say what I'm saying now. So if you made it here, well, you get double the thanks. So thanks for being here. Really, thanks for being here. It's been a cool, long, busy ride, but it's an awesome ride to take, and I'm so happy you're all here with me. I really am. So make sure you do check out that one on Wednesday, because I will be making a separate video, and it will be a giveaway as well to celebrate the 1 year. I'm going to be giving away a game. Zombicide Green Horde. That's the game. Spoiler alert. You're here. You made it to the end of a crowdfunding countdown. You deserve to have some little spoilers, don't you? Anyway, thanks so much for being here. My name's Chris George, and I don't have a catchphrase, but yabba dabba doo. No, I'm not going to do that. That's something Zach would do. These friggin' dumb catchphrases at the end of Nemesis killed me. I'm not doing that. I don't have a catchphrase. I'm not cool enough to have a catchphrase yet. But maybe heading into year 2, maybe we'll finally come up with one. Thanks so much for being here, and I will see you in the next one.